Going live to a virtual press conference that's going on with Metro Public Health, and they are talking about grocery store inspections, especially in light of rodents being found in some local grocery stores. Let's jump in and listen.
Food service with retail, that's going to be your Kroger, your Walmart, your Myers. These are your grocery stores that have a retail section of the store. And then they also have a food service section where they're actually preparing food, making food, and handling food. Those types of facilities, because they're doing a lot more and they're more high risk, they get inspected twice a year. And then as far as our other type of retail grocery stores, those that are solely prepackaged food, they don't do any kind of food prep or anything like that. Those are going to be places like Target, Aldi. They don't do any food prep in there. So they only get inspected once a year. And then just to give you a little bit more background, currently we have only 13 active food inspectors that are responsible for investigating and going out to all of these food facilities to inspect them.
Wow, small and mighty team. So, Sam, when somebody looks at the most recent inspection report for a grocery store and they see that they got an A, but then they hear we're investigating the store for a rodent infestation, how is it possible that they got an A? Can you help explain that?
Yeah, I understand it can definitely be a little confusing. So for our grocery stores that do food prep, where they're actually handling, chopping food, that is a more high risk area for a risk of foodborne illness. So those areas where food is actually being handled, being packaged, you're actually cooking the food and stuff like that. That is the area that gets the A placard or the B or C placard. So when you go into Kroger, for instance, and you see the A placard, that is strictly for the food service area. So when we go into Kroger, we basically are doing two inspections. We're doing one inspection on the food service deli area, and that will have one score with a placard. And then we will do an inspection on the retail section of the store, and that will receive a different score and no placard. And the way to find out those scores for the retail area is just by either pulling a report through an open records, or you can go online to our website where we post all of our scores at.
Yeah, that's in the city's open data portal.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay, can you explain then when you are inspecting the retail area of the grocery store? So what does that entail? What's that look like?
Yeah, so when we do the retail section of a grocery store, like I said, it could be inspected twice a year, it could be inspected once a year, but we're going in and we're looking for holding temperature. So anything refrigerated, we're going to make sure is holding at 41 degrees or below. Anything frozen, we're going to make sure in the freezer section is still frozen. We're also going to be looking for adulterated product. If product's moldy, if there's dented cans, we're going to be going down aisles and checking for that kind of adulterated product on the shelves. We also are going to be, looking for cleanliness, and anything that we see on site, we address it with the store manager, and we make sure that it is corrected on site during the time of our visits. And then we also do we also investigate complaints. So along with the yearly inspections that we do, anytime we receive a complaint, we have to go out onto that facility and investigate. So actually in the past year, since July of last year, we've investigated 958 complaints. So we have been busy.
Yeah, and to clarify, that's how many complaints in general, but how many of them were related to grocery stores?
Out of the 958, we had 172 that were complaints just on like a retail facility that does some kind of retail or prepackaged facility.
Okay, and then in the past year, how many complaints did we receive and investigate related to Kroger?
So for the last year, we investigated 57 complaints on Kroger, and 21 of those had to do with some kind of rodent issue. And then just so you know, 9 of those were sent into us in the past 2 weeks. So the past year, about 21, but in the past 2 weeks, about 9. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we said that we would revisit Goss Avenue and the LaGrange Road Kroger stores late last week. So Allison, I am going to ask you if you can give us an update on the Goss Avenue Kroger.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, let us know what steps they took.
Okay.
Are we continuing to follow up? Feel free. Give us an update.
Okay. All right. So just to back up a little bit, the Kroger on Goss self-closed on Friday the 13th, around 10 p.m. and they were closed the entire weekend, the whole store. And they basically closed off all affected areas. They had closed off all affected areas prior to that. And after doing that, they decided it was in everybody's best interest to close the store to mediate the problem. We went out there Monday morning, the 16th at 8 a.m. and were pleased with what they had done and what they had found to eliminate the problem. And we allowed them to reopen on Monday the 16th. But we advised them that we're going to keep a close eye on the situation. So we went back out, an inspector went back out Wednesday, the 18th, and found a little bit of an issue that we hadn't seen before. However, we don't know if it was something we just missed or if it was a new issue. So she went back out, that inspector went back out on Friday, the 20th, and everything that she had seen had been corrected at that time. We are going to have them on, I'd say, at least a weekly follow-up for now. But right now we're very pleased with the progress that's been made at that store. They've complied with every order we've written, and they have ongoing pest control that's at least 3 times a week. They have pest control in the store.
Okay, great. Thank you. Maya, can you tell us about the LaGrange store? So what steps did they take, and did they do everything we've asked?
Yes, so we received 3 separate complaints for the LaGrange store on May 5th, June 6th, and June 9th. Our inspector conducted the investigation on each occasions, and then at the time of each investigation, we did not observe any evidence of active rodent infestation. We only observed drop-ins, but did not observe any chew-through products or any live or dead mice. So pest control company has been visiting this establishment on a daily basis to address the concern. And we sent out our inspector out again on Friday, which is June the 20th, and she observed drop-ins, but similar to the earlier findings, she didn't find any active evidence or active infestation for this LaGrange Kroger.
But again, was that usually we talk to the store manager, we're ensuring that they've cleaned and disinfected and that they have their pest control
That's correct.
operations in place, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and then Maya, I understand that we had a recent complaint about one more Kroger, and that is at the Holiday Manor Kroger. So can you give us a little information about that?
Sure. For the Holiday Manor Kroger, I do want to let you guys know that this was the first time this issue has been brought to our attention. We have not received any rodents related complaint for this Holiday Manor Kroger until June the 17th. So myself and the area inspector went out to this location and we conducted the investigation on June 18th. During our time investigation, we found evidence of active rodents infestation in aisles number 2, 3, 3, 4, and 8. Also the dry pasta aisles. So we have issued them order to close down those affected aisles, remove all of the products from the shelf, break down the shelving to eliminate rodents in any way they may be harboring. We also order to have a detail clean and sanitize all these affected aisles and advise them to continue with the pest control company recommendations, treatments. So we follow up on this store on Friday, June the 20th, and we were very pleased with what they have done. And we're stay following with them today to assess the progress that they have made since the last follow-up visit. So we'll definitely be doing the continued monitoring the situation until this issue has been fully resolved.
Okay, so much like Allison said with the Goss Avenue one, we'll probably be doing some weekly follow-ups to make sure they're having continued progress. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that is all the information that I have, and that was based on lots of questions that I was getting from our media colleagues. If you have questions, any reporters, if you have a question, you can either put your question in the chat, or if you want to just come off mute and ask your question, that's great. We're happy to take your questions now.
Allison,
I'm sorry, Mark. I saw Alexandra raised her hand. Alexandra, who are you with?
I'm with WHAS 11. My question is for Allison. Allison, you mentioned that there were a new issue that you observed in a follow-up. What exactly was that issue? Did it have to do with rodents, or is it something unrelated?
Yes, our inspector that went out on the Wednesday after they had opened back up, she found some droppings on the floor in an area that we hadn't noticed before. We're not sure whether they were there before or not, to be honest. It was an area that might have been missed. So not sure if they were old droppings or new droppings. So she advised them at that time to get it cleaned up. She found some damaged areas, possibly like holes in the floor where some pipes or electrical wires were going through. She advised them to either fill those with steel wool or insulation. To eliminate, if there was a current issue there, it would eliminate that. So when the inspector went back out on Friday, they had corrected that issue.
Okay, so you're saying that mice could have been harboring in those places in the floor, and so then they took care of that. Yeah,
correct.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, Mark Stevens, you have a question?
yes, why are mouse droppings not considered an active infestation?
I can
Well, I guess can I take that if y'all don't mind? And,
Go for it.
Sam or Maya, feel free to jump in. I think it's kind of piggybacks on what I was just saying about when we see droppings, they could have been there a year or they could have been there a day. We don't really know when you only see droppings. So it's not evidence of an active infestation necessarily, if that helps.
I also just want to point out, if we do see droppings, though, we will check, for damaged product. Because if we are seeing a bunch of product chewed through, or we're seeing a bunch of mice on dead traps, or, we're even seeing live mice running around the store, then that tells us that there's, a bigger issue going on than just a few droppings that might be on the shelf underneath somewhere that hasn't been cleaned in who knows how long. So we are looking for those other things that can tell us that there is an active infestation.
Anybody else have a question?
Can I follow up?
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Thank you for that. I guess my next question, going back to Goss, can you clarify one thing for me? You said the store self-closed on Friday, but that the health department allowed them to reopen Monday. That sounds like at some point the health department was either suggesting that they close. I just clarify the language for me, please.
Okay, when we went out there, let's see, let me back up. So they self-closed on Friday the 13th. We advised them a couple of days prior to, actually, I think it was Monday of that week. That's when we ordered them to shut down the affected areas that we observed. So once they did that, they realized the problem was possibly bigger than they originally anticipated. And they phoned us that Friday, the 13th, and advised that they were going to self-close so they could really break down more of the store and get to the root of the problem.
What was the root?
The root of the problem, I would say, is how the rodents were getting into the building and then where they were nesting inside the building. And they were able to locate those areas.
Is that enough, Mark? Does that make sense? Do you have any other questions?
I do, but I saw a hand go up, so I'll wait.
Okay, thank you. Amina, I saw your hand.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Amina with Louisville Public Media. I just wanted to understand a little bit more about what you're saying regarding the rodents getting in. Is there something particular about the architecture of the Kroger stores or, you know, the way that their shelving is built or something that is allowing this to happen?
I can answer that one. So so for the Kroger Goss, when they broke down a bunch of their shelving, which they did find some electrical conduit, like where old electrical lines were running through the floor, and those were open for, you know, things to be living down in there, for rodents to be coming out of there. So those areas were sealed up, and they wouldn't have been able to locate those areas without breaking down the shelving and finding them. They also had, which they also had basically like an old, like refrigerated trench is what they called it, that opened up to the outside and it was not capped properly. And so they concreted that trench in because they did find evidence of a nest down there. And they believe that that is where, how they were getting into the building was through this, they called it a trench. So by finding those areas and eliminating and sealing those up properly, it has shown great improvement that not as many are getting in or not, you know, it's kind of taking care of that problem. They also found some nests that they were able to eliminate, and which has helped the situation. So.
Thanks, Sam. Anybody else? Mark, did you want to ask
Could I
another follow-up? Or Amina, go
Sorry,
ahead. You have a follow-up?
Yeah, I just want to follow up. Yeah, thank you for that. I guess I'm curious about how knowing this and knowing about these vulnerabilities might impact the way you approach inspections in the future. Will you be looking for anything different when you do your regular inspections of grocery stores?
Yeah, so like I said, we are in a grocery store 1 or 2 times a year. And so it's really, our inspections are like a point in time and what we see during that inspection. So we really look for the public to send us in these complaints of what they're seeing, because we might miss something, or we might, we're only there on 2 out of 365 days a year. So we are really looking for the public to send in these complaints and help us. If they see something, let us know so that we can go out and investigate. But we are going to make sure that we are paying more attention to our retail side of things. Our food service is more of the high risk locations where we focus a lot of our attention, because it is such a high risk area for foodborne illnesses. But we are going to make sure that we are focusing on the retail side and making sure, we're checking all the product to ensure that nothing is being sold that is adulterated. So.
Good explanation, Sam. Thank you. I see that Joyce with WLKY has put a question in the chat. She's noted that we said Goss Avenue and Holiday Manor will both have weekly follow-ups. Are we doing weekly follow-ups at LaGrange Road? And when we do the follow-ups, what are we looking for? Who wants to take that one? let's see, Maya, I think you were talking about LaGrange and Holiday Manor. Do you want to take that? Are we going back to LaGrange? And then when we do follow-ups, what are we looking for?
Yeah, we'll be doing the follow-up at the LaGrange, and then obviously the Holiday Manor and Goss Avenue as well. Whenever we're out doing these follow-up inspection, we'll be looking for things like drop-in, chew-through products, and then making sure nothing has been adulterated. Those are the things that we'll be looking for. We'll also be checking the pest control report. Make sure they have an active pest control at the establishment at least weekly or daily, depending on what the progress is. And then we want to also see how much they have caught on daily basis.
Thanks, Maya. Anybody else?
Yes, on the number of complaints. I think you said 57 complaints of Kroger this year, 21 directly related to rodents, 9 in the last 2 weeks. Did I get that correctly?
Yes.
Oh, the 57 were Kroger complaints, Sam? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So in the last
Okay.
year, as of July 1st, 2024, we had 57 Kroger complaints, but those could be, anything from dirty bathrooms, dirty floors. And then out of those 57, 21 of those had to do with actual like rodents or CN droppings or something of that nature. And then 9 of those of the 21 were just in the past 2 weeks. A lot of them about Goss. I think once, it was out there in the public, we were receiving more and more complaints. So 9 of those were in the past 2 weeks.
Of those 21 complaints, were they just these 3 stores or were there additional stores?
It looks like, let me see. I'm not sure if I have that information right off the bat. There were mainly, so 12 of those were Goss, of the 21. And then 3 of those were LaGrange. And then 1 for Holiday Manor. We had a couple other complaints for Broadway, Taylorsville Road, and Brownsboro Road. But a lot of those were either older complaints or we didn't find any active infestations.
All right, 2 more questions. I appreciate all the time you're taking. The first one is this normal as far as just this is the line of work that these businesses are in and they're going to have to be battling pest control issues like this, or is this different in any way?
So any facility that has food, has to have some kind of pest control program in place to prevent things. So we go by the 2013 FDA food code. And in the food code, it states that a food establishment must prevent pests from entering the facility. They must prevent pests from finding shelter, breeding grounds within the establishment, and they basically must be free of pests. So every facility has to have some kind of pest control program in place to prevent these things from happening. Most restaurants, they have everything that any rodent would want. So we just have to make sure that we are working with each facility to ensure that they're taking the proper steps to prevent these things from happening. So.
Okay.
Any more
Yes,
questions, Mark?
I think you had mentioned that it was Holiday Manor. I don't want to compare it to Goss if that's not accurate. I think this follows up on Amina's earlier question. Were there similar issues with like a cooling trench or holes because of conduit? Is that what was ultimately found the root there as well?
At Holiday Manor?
Yes.
Is
Yes,
that the one you're
sorry.
asking about? Okay. Maya, were they able to have we found out if they were able to, did they find like similar things, holes in the floor, places where mice could be getting in?
We found 3 nesting. Well, they found 3 nesting sites for the Holiday Manor. It was in between walls of these aisles, so it was not a refrigeration issue. It was different from the Goss Avenue location. So We found drop-ins and evidence of the active rodent infestation at aisle number 2, 3, and 4. So we found 3 nests at those aisles. So I can't remember if it's a 2 or 3, but it was in those aisles.
And we ordered them to
Yeah,
close
and
those
they haven't-
aisles and
Yeah, so they
okay.
stay closed.
They still haven't opened them
No,
back?
not yet.
Okay,
Mhm.
gotcha. Not until we'll go back and do a
That's correct.
follow-up, and if they've made progress, we'll be able to say they
Mhm.
can open up. Okay, gotcha.
And I just
Any
want
more?
so I believe that we're also going back out to Holiday Manor today, if I'm not mistaken. So Kroger will probably give us an update on if they found some entry points in the store. So we just don't have that information yet, because I think they were working on trying to find those entry points over the weekend. So hopefully they'll have an update for us.
Any more questions? Okay, well, thank you all. Appreciate you for being here. Thank you, Maya, Samantha, and Allison, for sharing all the information. Again, we are recording this, and if you want me to send you the recording, I'm happy to send it to you. If you have additional follow-up questions, you can email me, kathy.turner@louisvilleky.gov. But thanks everyone for being here. We really appreciate you sharing this information.